Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and really explore the journey ahead for them. I'm your host, Michelle Saeed, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and strategies driving their future growth. Today, we're thrilled to have Shawn Nason, the founder and CEO of Nason Group and Chief Experience Officer, joining us. Shawn brings over years of experience from the Walt Disney Company, as we can see through his background, and he's honed his customer service experience and has since transformed healthcare through human-centered design, notably at many organizations like Offer Health and Healthways. Shawn leads Nason Group to simplify complex challenges for organizations with bold, people-first strategies. We'll explore his founding story, how Nason Group is reshaping transformation in healthcare and beyond, and his vision for scaling his impact. So let's dive in. Shawn, welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you, Michelle. It's so great to be here.
Absolutely. So let's kick things off for the listeners. Take us back to the beginning. What specific problem within customer experience or like the transformation landscape really inspired you to start Nascent Group?
Yeah, so I had a mentor of mine actually say to me, you're too disruptive to be in an organization, but everything you say, organizations need to hear. And he said, you need to start your own group and you need to be an outside voice to go into companies. And that particular mentor of mine, I've actually worked for off and on for 14 years. And probably done 7 or 8 things with him. And so that's really what led to starting the Nason Group and what we do today and what we'll do in the future.
Love that. Tell us a little bit about, let's get into the nuts and bolts for the listeners, even potential clients that may be tuning in. Would love for you to walk us through your core offer. How does Nason Group generate revenue today? And then also talk to us a little bit about your ideal client, who you like to work with.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Our core offering is to work with organizations, executives, and leaders who are looking to better their experience ecosystem, as we call it at the Nason Group. So that's every touch point, whether it be systems, processes, people that you want to improve. And as you said, I have a background working for the Walt Disney Company. Those that are watching this can see behind me, I have a lot of Disney stuff behind me. So I'm a firm believer in the way that the Disney Company sets up their experience ecosystem and all their touch points for their guests. If you're a fan or not a fan, they've been known for that for many years. So our core offerings is we come in, we consult, we advise, we can help build your strategy for it, we can actually facilitate and train for it, or we can just sit in an advisory type role. And I've done all of those for really from our Fortune 1 company. You'll see out there, and it's public. We did a lot of work with Walmart to the startup who's just wanting some type of fractional work done to help build their customer experience, their customer service teams, whatever that might be. And so the companies that we like to work with are ones that are willing to invest and make the changes that need to be changed to do this. To put, as I say it, to put money where the mouth is, and I have a great saying that I love. If you go out, you'll see it all over any of my social media. But if you get the human experience, you'll get the numbers you need. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's a little bit about us.
Love that. Love that. Honestly, I can remember very vividly my first trip to Disney World. And I just wanted to interject with a story. And I was just like, wow. And my mom was beside me. She was like, wow, everything from like the customer service, the customer experience, it's just so dialed in. She didn't really say it was dialed in, whereas I'm saying it right now, but that was along those lines, what she was saying. And I remember it was like one of the best experiences of my life. And your background, I'm sure you've leveraged a lot of what they're doing there in terms of like tactics and like strategies. And so this is super exciting. So from what it sounds like, this is fractional strategic advisory that you're offering really a lot of organizations and startups. Now, what does like a typical client engagement look like? When you come in, where do they start within that customer journey? And then what does success look like at the end as soon as you're done working with them?
Yeah, I wish I could say that we had a typical engagement length because it really does depend on the size of the organization and what that team is looking for, that executive is looking for. Many times I tell people typically it's not any shorter than 12 weeks, but then we've been with organizations for 4 or 5 years, helping them just continue to grow and build that ecosystem.
Mm,
And that's a harder one to answer because it just depends what you're looking for. But
mm,
in that process, we come in and we do an evaluation. You said we are deeply rooted in human-centered design. So we follow that process,
mm,
which really means start with empathy. So we have to understand the problem and the right problem that the organization is trying to solve. Many
mm,
times we go after low-hanging fruit in organizations and you don't really solve for the right problem. So we
mm,
work with teams to make sure they're solving for the right problem, not just chasing a metric,
mm.
but chasing the right problem to get to what they want to do to build that better experience.
Love that. Now, in terms of really like the scalability aspect, right? And I want to learn about your vision for scale. We've had a lot of guests on here. They run fractional offers, and oftentimes they find it tough to approach scalability without sacrificing the quality or finding a way to do the fulfillment. I'm curious, like, how have you actually thought about scaling, productizing your offer, still keeping it effective, still keeping it human centric, as that is the core focus? How are you navigating that now as you guys go into 2025?
Yeah, scalability is pretty easy for us because I tell organizations I need to work myself out of a job where you don't need me. And I just spent the last year with an organization called Patient Point, where we built the system and the process of human-centered design, and we trained the organization to use that
Mm,
tool and to really let it be a living organism within the organization. And so at that point, when you've trained it, you don't necessarily need someone to be there. So when I go in
mm,
with an organization, I want to make sure that they're bought in. And I have a team of people that I can bring in, but that they're bought in to train and facilitate this type of change
mm,
and to really build an experience ecosystem. I will keep talking about this ecosystem because that ecosystem is all around people, touch points, and systems. You
mm,
can't just pick one area. You can't just say, I'm going to do people, or I'm just going to do the touch points of the customer, or I'm just going to do systems. You have to look at the whole ecosystem, which is why we call it that, and be willing to invest not only dollars, but people and effort to make it happen. So once you get that team brought in, scalability becomes easy because you're scaling within the organization. It's not just us as the Nason Group coming in, doing our thing while the organization is doing its own thing. We're tightly aligned and partnered.
mm. Okay, so that makes sense. Absolutely. There's a lot of enablement work from what it sounds like. It's not just you guys coming in, and oftentimes in the fractional space, that is exactly what it is. It's like very hands-on. You guys are doing a lot of that strategic direction and execution. You're enabling a lot of the teams you work with as well to take ownership of that, which is super disruptive and really in its essence, nothing that I've heard of before. Now, building on your growth, tell us a little bit about acquisition. What are some of those channels, whether it's LinkedIn, referrals, organic marketing, maybe some paid ads? How are you actually driving leads through the door for some of the services?
Yep. Number one is word of mouth referrals. Anyone who has ever brought us in has never not wanted to keep us and not wanted to refer for us. So we lead on referrals. Obviously, LinkedIn is my platform of choice.
Mm,
Have about 117,000 followers there, so I've built an amazing community there within LinkedIn. And so we do that. I do not do any paid ads. And I don't do any marketing because we get enough on referrals and off of what I drive off of LinkedIn.
love that. Now, with LinkedIn, more for the listeners tuning in, a lot of them are looking at how they can actually start to leverage LinkedIn. What are some of those ways that, you're more specifically approaching LinkedIn to drive lead acquisition? What is it exactly? Is it like some of the thought leadership that you're posting on there, or is it more of a cold outreach mechanism that you're implementing on the lead gen side? How is all of that structured?
Yep. I do it all through thought leadership. I don't do any type of cold calling. I don't do any type of reaching out that way. I present my knowledge, my thought leadership as an executive, as a leader. I and probably what I would say the most thing, the number one thing that people get wrong on LinkedIn is not being consistent.
Right.
You have to be consistent. You have to post consistently, get your community involved, find out who your community is, and stay engaged with them. So it does take a bit of work. I'm not going
Mm.
to lie, but I post almost 7 days a week. It's consistent. I talk about personal stuff, but I talk a lot about business stuff and what it looks like when you're playing within that ecosystem.
Love that. Yeah, no, I know. That's exactly how we got in touch with you. Is like we saw a lot of your thought leadership and like really a lot of that use case that you're providing up front to your audience and to get the messaging out there. So I love that. Now, really, we've had a lot of guests as well. Sometimes word of mouth, sometimes thought leadership as well on LinkedIn. It's almost like hard to scale that aspect. What are some of those ways as an entrepreneur that you're looking at exploring more consistency, more predictability with your lead gen? Are you looking at any strategies or systems to make client acquisition more reliable in that sense?
Unfortunately, I'm not. Or fortunately, I don't know if that's an unfortunate or fortunate thing. I'm not, just because those two things are working beautifully for us at the Nason Group. They've kept us busy, so we've not had to chase those things down. So having to do that cold call lead gen is not something we've had to do because we have a great reputation and word of mouth has kept us going.
Love that. Love that. Now, in terms of like your approach to sales, like what are some of those strategies? If someone does come in as like a referral or through word of mouth or even through seeing some of the thought leadership you're doing on LinkedIn, how are you actually conducting your sales process? Like, how are you having those conversations? Do you also have a team in place doing some of that outreach, or is it just yourself right now as like a solopreneur?
We do have a group, and my team focuses on working with the clients that we have and our customers that we have, and I work with them as well. I handle all of that process because many times, again, it's called the Nason Group, so they're looking at Shawn Nason and what I do and my background. So people want to have those conversations with me. They want to understand how we're gonna move forward, what it's gonna look like. So I handle that process with potential new clients, potential new customers, get the deal ready, and then I work with my team and myself to make sure we deliver on that.
Love that. So, from what it sounds like, you're having a lot of those conversations. You're really there, really finding out more about what you can actually do to help some of the potential clients. What does that framework look like? What does that actual process look like? And how are you looking at ways that you can even like delegate your sales process later on to like team members or as you like start to grow your team? How are you approaching that as you start to even scale your business?
Yeah, I wish I'd said we had this great sales process or acronym or thing to give to founders. What I have found true in the sales process goes back to actually how I lead my life. And my second book that I wrote with two other co-authors called Kiss Your Dragons, we
Mm,
talk about this concept of radical relationships.
mm,
I am a firm believer that when we work with the client, when we work with the new customer, we have to have a relationship
mm.
and we can't take the human part of that out. Again,
Yeah.
I shared, if you get the human experience, you get the numbers you need. So I want to have a relationship with clients. So we don't just take on any client. I don't
Mm,
take on any group to work with us. I want to make sure we have a relationship. We understand how we work at the Nason Group, how you work as a company, what we want to do, how we want to make those changes, and make sure we're all in agreement so we can go down that path. So
mm,
many times I have a couple people that work with us, the right hand people that they get brought into the process. But
mm,
again, I typically own that process. Even as we scale, we call ourselves a boutique consulting firm. We
mm,
don't want to have, I don't want the Nason Group to be 100 people or
mm,
50 people. We're a boutique group. We also use the term sometimes that we're a SWAT team, that we come in. So
mm,
we're always going to stay in that smaller size group that works
mm.
with you and comes in and builds a relationship with you.
Love that. Yeah, and it keeps it a lot more dialed in. It keeps it more personalized as well, as you said, like a very human
Yes.
approach to really like offering a lot of that strategy. Now, from what it sounds like, your growth has been incredible, doing a lot of thought leadership on LinkedIn, and then also really bringing yourself still in the business, and you are like the core business to begin with. From what it sounds like, I'd love to learn a little bit about maybe some of those challenges you're seeing as an entrepreneur. What are some of those bottlenecks? Is it attracting some of the right partnerships, as you said, as you guys are not looking to necessarily just take on anyone, improving maybe some of those conversions if someone does come in as like a referral? What are you most focused on solving right now to keep the momentum going at Nason Group?
Yeah, I would say right now for us, and remember, we do customer experience, we do innovation, we do strategy. So, looking at trends of what's happening, the biggest challenge that we're facing is for people to understand that AI is here to stay,
Mm,
but it can't replace everything. So, how can you use artificial intelligence and how can you use all the amazing pieces of AI to better those system and processes that I talk about in the ecosystem
mm,
so you can use people to focus on people. And we do a ton of work in healthcare, Michelle, a ton of work. And one of the things that I keep telling people is you have to figure out how to be high touch
mm,
and high tech. So, how do you build an experience ecosystem where you
mm,
use technology to alleviate pain points or those administrative tasks so that clinicians can focus on taking care of the patient? Same thing happens in retail, same things. There are some things that we can use technology for. It's easy. I'm a huge advocate for that. But there's some areas in life where you're just like, no, you can't use technology for that. You still have
right,
to use a person. And I go back to Disney, who does it brilliantly still. You go in the parks there and you have cast members that still help guide your way and guide your direction, even though you still have an app that has a park map on it, that has
right.
wait times on it. But you can get your, for those that are Disneyites, as you can still get your fast passes there, but
Mm,
there's still cast members around to focus on the guest experience.
mm.
So I think that's the biggest challenge I'm seeing right now is technology can't be the answer to everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how are you navigating that right now? And just to clarify more for the listeners who may not be really familiar enough with really in the fractional space, what kind of goes on with having some of those conversations with clients? Is it more just, okay, how can you actually enable some of your clients to adapt to AI and to understand that, hey, this is here to stay? We need to also be utilizing some of that technology as well to create a lot of those processes and systems. Or is it more just, are you finding like internally as like an organization, you guys figuring out how do we actually utilize AI and some of that tech to improve our processes or like systematize and automate some of the scale of the deliverables or offers you guys have?
Yeah, so this is funny, and I know this will play at a later date, but today's May 27th. Today's my wife's birthday. And so I was like, I didn't want to just post the typical go on Facebook and Instagram and happy birthday. I wanted my wife's a huge Star Wars fan. As a matter of fact, my wife is spending her birthday at Disney World with her girlfriends. So I wanted to post something funny. And so I used AI, ChatGPT. I wrote my message that I wanted to write to her. And then I said to it, could you put this in the tone and voice of Darth Vader?
Mm,
Because she's a huge Star Wars fan. And it did. Now, that would have taken me hours to have figured out,
yeah.
right? But I used my own words and then allowed it to transfer it into the tone of Darth Vader. So I
Mm,
posted it, and she actually made a funny comment about it and said, thanked ChatGPT for helping write this in that tone of Darth Vader.
mm,
So are we using it at Nason Group? Absolutely. You have to. It makes life so much easier. People ask me all the time, do you have ChatGPT write all of your posts? No,
mm,
I do not. I give my thoughts to ChatGPT. I've learned how to write my own chats and my own bots out there where I've downloaded stuff. Like my books are in ChatGPT. All my thought leadership articles are in ChatGPT. So I give it my thoughts. I dump my brain because my brain just gets is disruptive in that. And then
mm.
I'll have it help organize. We can do the same thing at Nason Group when we're organizing like journey maps and customer journeys. You can use all of that for that. So we do
Mm,
use it, but I'm also encouraging organizations, you've got to start playing with it. It's
mm,
not going away. So if you don't use it in everything, you've got to start finding the place where you're going to use it
mm.
because this isn't a fly by night technology. It's here to stay.
Yeah, 100%. Now, in terms of really like where you guys are looking to grow going into this year, tell us a little bit about what your plan is for growing Nason Group over the next 6 to 12 months. Paint that picture for us as you look at scaling the company and then also like heading into 2026, what some of those plans are.
Yeah, so for us, it's to stay consistent and true to who we are.
Mm,
And again, scaling with the right customers. Not, and this is a hard thing and I'm giving this to founders as they're listening
mm,
to this podcast, is don't take a customer for dollars
mm,
just to have the dollars. I can tell you when I first started the Nason Group, which was formerly known as Mofi,
mm,
when we started that, I remember one customer I took just because it was a six-figure contract. And to me, it was going to be easy work. But in my gut, I knew it wasn't the right person and it
mm,
wasn't the right customer and they weren't going to follow through. And I
mm,
will tell you that 6 month engagement was miserable. So the dollars were not worth the misery that I had to walk through. So as
mm,
we're scaling Nason Group, it's staying true to who we are.
mm,
That's a boutique consulting firm focused on this experience ecosystem, innovation, and strategy. Staying true to that, finding the right customers as we're moving into 2026,
mm.
those that are willing and able to be open and move forward in that.
Love that. Now, I really want to get a bit hypothetical, right? Because you're focused on how can we actually find the right customers that actually want to move forward and what those right fits look like. If I brought a genie in the room, staying on the theme of Disney, and you're Aladdin and you rub the lamp, now you have all these unlimited resources. What would you implement immediately to accelerate the growth of Nascent Group?
Oh, that is interesting. I would implement what I have learned, and we've scaled Nason Group up and down several times, is people that have said to me, "Oh, we understand your mindset, Shawn," and
Mm,
then we bring them in and they don't understand it at all. So if I could rub a genie, it would really be to have that lamp create people that have the disruptive mindset that understands that experience, innovation, and
mm.
strategy, although it can be disruptive, it always has to affect your top line and your bottom line.
Love that. Now, one last question as we're in the lightning round. Really share with us more on like the best piece of advice you've received about scaling a consulting business. We have a lot of entrepreneurs, founders tuning in. They're still finding their footing in their own story. What would you say on one last note?
I'm actually in the process, I'll give a little hidden gem away. I'm in the process of starting to write a third book, and it's around the balance between power, transaction, and care. And so, to founders, as you're scaling, as you're looking to move forward, don't get those unbalanced. Understand that, and this is to all sizes, and this is even to bigger companies. Understand that because you're a CEO or you're an executive, don't let power go to your head.
Mm,
Don't become so transactional that you forget the human experience.
mm.
And always lead with care. We're all humans. Listen, I don't know about you, Michelle, but in today's world, we need a whole lot more kindness. And we need
Absolutely.
a whole lot more empathy and understanding of where each of us are. And I just think business would be better if we keep those three balanced.
Love that. No, absolutely. Human approaches to business, right? And we're all people at the end of the day, and that's really what it comes down to, more than just like that transaction. So,
And
wow,
more than dollars, man. We're all humans.
love that. On that note, that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. Shawn, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your remarkable journey. Really just like spending your time at the Walt Disney Group, bringing like such a human-centric approach to developing organizations. We're excited to follow your journey ahead as you go into 2025, finish off 2025 and head into 2026. So to our listeners, if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. If you would like to get in touch with Shawn, we will link his LinkedIn profile below. And you can find some more resources and insights at closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their growth through trained appointment setters and world-class sales systems. Until then, everyone, keep climbing, and we'll see you all on the next one.